Well, I think we might as well get started. Welcome everyone, first year students for 2023. My name's Andrew Lawler, you can see it at the bottom of the slide, and I'm the principal of the schools unit at Box Hill Institute. And that means that I look after all the courses that are under the banner of VETDSS, so Vet Delivered to Secondary Students. But I also run VCE, like you would be accustomed to at school, and VCAL, which is becoming the VCE vocational major next year. And I have another product line which is called school-based apprenticeships and traineeships. To give you a little bit of background about Box Hill and VETDSS, which is what you're all here for, we've been offering courses for more than 20 years, and next year we expect close to 3,000 students to either attend directly on campus at one of our 4 campuses. So we have one at Lilydale, we have one we call the Nelson campus in Box Hill, we have one on Alga Road, which is our traditional and largest campus, and we have one in the city as well. And then we'll have approximately another 700 students that undertake one of our VETDSS courses in their own school environments, and that's what we call an auspicing relationship. Box Hill's grown in student numbers by about 40% over the past 2 years, and that's testament not only to the popularity of VETDSS within the school system that you all belong to, but also due to the wraparound support and services that we provide. As this may be your first introduction to VETDSS, and I'm thinking about parents, I did want to spend a little bit of time regarding what our expectations are of you as students next year and what your expectations can be of us. And then I'll follow that by the release of the individual course presentations. You'll be able to log online and access the one that is the particular course that you're interested in next year. So to begin with, I just wanted to touch on why you would choose VETDSS in the first place. Obviously, it's very well integrated with senior secondary studies, whether you're undertaking VCE or the VCE VM, or now even the Victorian Pathways Certificate, the VPC. But our certificates, we call them subjects when we're speaking to students at secondary school, but we call them certificates internally. Our certificate 2s and 3s are quite different in some respects to what you would expect from a secondary school subject. And the first thing is that they're a nationally recognised qualification. So they stand on their own 2 feet, and when you present your certificate, if you complete the course, to any employer across all of Australia, they'll know that you're a productive and safe member of the workforce and ready to begin work straight away. So really it's a passport into employment in that sense. It's based on technical and employability skills for your particular industry, and we make a huge investment in the infrastructure and the learning materials that we use and the environments that we create to simulate real-world environments. And then we also have employability skills that we wrap around all of our certificates that we deliver from the Victorian Skills and Jobs Centre, and that's to prepare you for job interviews, for building resumes, and just giving you the confidence to be able to implement the skills and achieve the outcomes that you want. Really, these certificates, whether they're engineering or animal studies or equine studies, they do have a large degree of specialised and industry knowledge. And as a consequence, our teachers have to have a foot in both camps. They have teaching qualifications, but they also have to maintain their currency in the industry that they're teaching about. So they'll spend a portion of the year working in the industry or undertaking some sort of experience to maintain that currency. There are employment opportunities that are linked to all of these certificates, and obviously the financial outcomes that come with that as well. And then, of course, they can be used to parlay into further education. A certificate 3 can build into a certificate 4, which can build into a diploma, an advanced diploma. And these days, those advanced diplomas can take you into a first or second year bachelor course at a number of universities. So whereas in my generation, things were quite siloed, these days there's a lot of flexibility in the education system, and they're all meant to plug and play with one another to produce a unique education outcome that's really suited to you. How is TAFE different to school, I think, is a very important consideration, in particular for students who have taken this on the advice of a career practitioner, but might not know what they're getting themselves into. And the first thing that I would point out is that when you come to TAFE to undertake a VETDSS course, you will be entering into an adult learning environment. we consider you to be like any of our other over 18 students, and certainly we do have sensitivities to that you are still under 18. But for instance, there won't be anyone chasing you up and trying to get you to class. There are no bells. There is no one that's, I guess, ushering you or inspecting what you're doing. So really, you have to take the individual responsibility to make sure that you turn up to your class on time, 5 to 10 minutes early, preferably, and that you have all the materials available to undertake that course. It's very important to understand that at TAFE, it is a vocational education, and you will be doing hands-on activities and assessments at any given time during the year. So really, it's something that you can't miss out on, and something that is very hard to replicate if you miss a particular assessment or a particular learning exercise. So very important that you take the individual responsibility to attend. While this seems like quite a subtle difference to begin with, the cumulative impact can be quite profound, because unlike school, where you can pass and teachers will definitely push you through and there's some subjectivity with regards to your results and how you've performed, our certificates are really built around employment standards. And when you produce those in a job interview or as part of your work, they have to be able to trust that certificate and know that the training that sits behind it, that you have completed every aspect of it and passed 100%. So there's no grading as such in a TAFE environment. For a certificate, we won't give you a mark out of 100, or we won't give you an A+ or a B. We will give you either competent or not competent. And that's probably the major difference that you need to get your head around when undertaking one of our courses. I think it's probably important to also touch on how we interact with your schools. We have, as I said, 3,000 students coming from over 300 schools, and there's a constant demand to know how their students are performing in our environment. And the way that we do that is through what we call the VETDSS portal, which sits in the cloud, and your schools can access that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So a school will log on through their particular access. They can click on their school and look at all of their students, or they can pick an individual student and look at not only their attendance, but they can see if there are any at-risk comments indicating that classes may have been missed, there may be behaviour concerns, there may be work that's not being handed into standard, and then they can address that with you and your parents. And really, it is the school's ultimate responsibility to have those conversations with you. We won't be emailing parents directly about your mid-year and end-year reports. They get downloaded by your school as a PDF, and they can either be sent to you by the school directly, or they'll just be integrated into your regular reports. So to run you through just quickly what it looks like, the first thing, if you click on a student in the VETDSS portal, will be their attendance, and it's like a Christmas tree of lights that will progressively light up throughout the year. So green obviously denotes attendance, orange will denote partial attendance, and red will denote non-attendance. And we know very quickly that if you haven't, if we start seeing a string of red, you will be at risk of not being able to complete the course, because as I mentioned previously, this is very much a hands-on environment, and you'll need to be doing practical things that can't be repeated week in, week out, like a theory could be, or catch up via book learning or handing in things later. So really, you need to make sure that you're attending all year, and if you aren't able to attend for any reason, that a message is sent to your school, who will then forward it on to us, and that's an acceptable absence. Or if there's going to be an extended absence on your behalf, we do need to see a medical certificate as well. The mid-year and end-year reports will be, once again, there won't be letter or numerical grades. There'll be a competent or not competent, and there will be a mid-year report that has a drop-down list that we just fill in based on your punctuality, your observance of occupational health and safety, how you're interacting with class members and the like, and there'll be a written comment about your progress from the teacher as well. The one thing I did want to draw everyone's attention to is there's what's called a learner commitment or a learner contract. And this really is a serious matter if that occurs with you, where you will be asked, your parents will be asked, and your school will be asked to sign a commitment avoiding certain behaviours that we've identified and promoting behaviours that we want to see. If you do receive one of those, and we do have, numerous students every year be placed on a learner commitment, it is a quite serious undertaking, and you really have to make sure that you observe that contract, because the repercussions become quite serious if after warnings and if after signing that contract you don't abide by the conditions and terms therein. The courses that you are here for tonight to talk about is a mix of trades and also science and animal studies. I'll quickly list them. There's animal care, automotive, building and construction, electrotechnology, engineering, equine, laboratory skills and plumbing. So if you're here for another course, that will be a presentation occurring in about an hour's time. So hopefully you're all here and know that you're in the right spot. It probably is a really great time to be undertaking these VETDSS courses. In particular, the building industry is going through a boom based on the success of the big build projects across Victoria. There's a horizon of work spanning 5, 10 and 15 years, and wage and conditions are going up commensurately with the demand. So really great time to get into a Cert 2 in a trade, or even a Cert 3, and then potentially undertake an apprenticeship when you leave school. Likewise, with equine studies and laboratory skills, that's what we call a scored assessment subject, and we've recently, over the last couple of years, won the Premier's Award for the highest score in those areas. So whether you're choosing these subjects to attain a high ATAR, or if you're choosing this subject to enter the industry, Box Hill is leading the way in regards to those VETDSS courses. Now, I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about how these courses integrate with your senior secondary studies. And for parents out there, I might start from scratch and then build my way forward. I'll talk about how it integrates with VCE, which many of you will be doing, and about half of you have chosen to do the VCE VM, which is great. It's the new product that's coming out next year, and DET and all the TAFEs and all the schools have worked tremendously hard to make sure it's a success. So to begin with VCE, basically there's two options. You can undertake a non-scored assessment and achieve your VCE certificate, but you won't receive an ATAR. And that's become increasingly popular over the last few years, and I think about 10% of all students opt for that. Please be aware that if you are undertaking a non-scored VCE, you just need to let your school know and have agreed with your career practitioner, and they must send that information to Box Hill so that we know that while you will be doing the same study and you will be doing the same assessment, you won't be doing the exam at the end of the year, and you won't be receiving a study score for that particular subject, nor any of your other subjects at school. That is particularly important if you can't chop and change throughout the year. You can't start by saying, I'm doing non-scored, and then start building into it thinking, oh, I'm doing really well, I really enjoy this, maybe I want to do the exam. By that stage, it will be too late because we won't have graded the 3 assessments that come before it. So we have to have a clear line in the sand. If you're doing non-scored, let us know at the start of the year via your school. We will note it down in our system, and we'll follow through that way. If you are doing VCE scored, what you are after at the end of the day is the ATAR, and the ATAR in simple terms is a passport to university. Depending on the score on your passport, it will give you access to various courses, and it's valid for 1 year. So I think that's probably a great way to contextualize what an ATAR is. It's not about bragging to your mates or proving anything. It's not a huge success or a failure. It's a mechanism to move into higher education and a course that you would prefer. How an ATAR is calculated is that you will undertake anywhere between 4 to 6 subjects at school, of which VETDSS is one subject, and they can be used to calculate a top 4 of study scores, and then a 5th or 6th subject, which are your lower scores. So the top 4 get marked out of 50. You might get 46 for English, you might get 30 for maths, you might get 20 for science. They'll work out what are your top 4. They'll combine all that, add it together, and they'll come up with a magic number. And then your 5th or 6th subject, you will get 10% of that score. That will be added to the number that I just spoke about, and that will go through a magical machine, and it will spit out your ATAR at the end of it. So that's how an ATAR is basically calculated. Now, when it comes to VCE and our VETDSS courses, the main thing you need to be aware of, and you have to make sure you've had this conversation with your career practitioner, is that some can be used in your top 4, just like any other VCE subject at your school, but some can only be used as your 5th or 6th subject. And the trick is this: if they're being used as your 5th or 6th subject, you're obviously not being scored for them. So what will happen to get a 10% for them, we will move to your 4th best top 4, and we will take 10% of that and apply that to your VETDSS course. So say legal studies, you got 35 out of 50, that's 3.5. That gets added up to the cumulative total of your top 4. That's your big number, and then it gets translated into your ATAR. So I'll just quickly go through each one so that you're aware of how each one arranges through VCE. You have animal care, which cannot be used as a top 4 subject, but it will be used to give you 10% of your lower score of the primary 4. Same with automotive, building construction, and electrotechnology. So please be aware that if you're thinking that they can be used in your top 4, they can't. They will only ever be used as your 5th or 6th subject. We come to engineering. Now that is what we call a scored program, and that can be used like any other subject, and it will be able to derive a study score. If it's in your top 4, it will be used in your top 4. Likewise, equine study and laboratory skills are also complete scored assessments. They can be used in your top 4 if you do very well with them, and we hope that you do. Or if your study score isn't that great and it fits into your 5th or 6th, we'll use 10% to add to your cumulative number. Whereas plumbing can't be used in your top 4, we will just use your 10% from your 4th best subject and we'll apply that. So it's very important that you understand, based on your objective in the VCE, whether you want to maximize your ATAR or whether you're strategically trying to work out, okay, I've got a heavy theory load at school, I want something a little bit different as my 5th or 6th subject. Whatever your strategy is, I would just run it past your career practitioner, have a conversation with your parents, and make sure the choice that you've made fits in with that strategy. Now, when it comes to the 50% of students that are doing the VCE VM next year, there's a lot more flexibility. You can select a scored or a non-scored, so you can choose from any of these courses that I just went through. And the trick is, while you're not getting a study score, you need to get 180 hours in every year to complete your certificate. If you achieve that by passing all of the units within your course, you will then be awarded the certificate, which then allows you to be awarded the VCE vocational major certificate as well. So as part of the VCE VM, a VETDSS course, a second course is compulsory, so you all must do it, but more importantly, you all must pass it. So that's why it's very important that you attend class, that you make sure that you're submitting all the work and that you're 100% competent for every task that you submit or you're observed in. Now, I'm very happy to answer questions, and I know there's an enormous amount of questions usually at this time of the year, in particular from parents as well as students. And so what we're going to do is we're going to post the link to the individual courses in the chat, and you are more than welcome to go and find them on our YouTube Box Hill channel. If you choose VETDSS courses, there'll be a little icon. You can click on that, and down the right-hand side of the page will come up all the different presentations from your teachers in the environments that you'll be taught in, and they'll just go into more detail into the actual course, what you can expect, what you need to bring, all those sorts of things, and that should answer a fair few questions you have. But we also will post an active link to the VETDSS guide for 2023, and if you click on that, you will go to our published document that we send to all the schools, and that will have a breakdown of all the courses, whether they're a partial completion or a full completion, whether they're structured workplace learning that's mandatory or not, and some additional information on pathways to further study and the like. So please, they're 2 links that you can use and look at. I should say that classes begin on Monday, January the 30th, but that's the week starting. So it will generally, most classes occur on a Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon. So that will be either the 1st or 2nd of February, and then also Friday as well. We will be sending out welcome letters to you with confirmation of your enrolment. If you've sent back your e-form, please be aware that you have been accepted. Your place is reserved, so there's no stress in the system at all. But we will send a confirmation letter that will just detail your course, what you've been accepted into, and then there'll be another one at the start, closer to the start of the actual education year, probably late January, just because we know everyone goes on Christmas, they forget, they receive the welcome letter, and then there's a mad scramble to find it. And in that welcome letter, we're going to come out with more information. So we'll have a map of the campus that you're attending. We'll have it highlighted where you're to assemble on the first day, and there'll just be a little bit more information about the PPE you need, where you need to be, and the like as well. I should mention for parents while I'm here that fees will never be invoiced directly to parents, so please be aware of that. We will only ever invoice schools. Government schools are fully subsidised to offer these courses, so they won't charge you for this. Private schools and Catholic schools, it's at their discretion how much they charge. So they may invoice you a certain percentage of the course, they may invoice you for the whole course. It really is at the discretion of the individual schools. So what I'll do now is I will stop sharing the presentation, but I will start putting things in the chat, and I think Morgan, who's from the schools relationship unit, has already thrown it in there. So Morgan, if you could throw in both the YouTube channel and also the guide. The guide's already there, that's great. That would be fantastic, and I'm happy to take as many questions and answer as many of them as I can. So please just type them into the chat, or if you feel like you want to be more adventurous and go off and see the YouTube channel or read the guide, you're more than welcome to do so as well. So we'll hang around for as long as need be, and what I'll do is I'll read out the question and then I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. So just looking at what we've got here. Penny Wilson, hi, is there any chance of a student coming on site prior to see where they are going? Yes, we understand there's anxiety about this. We have allowed it. Unfortunately, our schools relationship unit has gone down with COVID, and we are having one that's leaving the organisation, so we're a bit short on the ground. If you wanted to email schools@boxhill.edu.au and just arrange it, we could definitely try to fit you in, and we could show you where you're coming, because we do realise that it does reduce that anxiety. You get familiar with the campus. We do have a fairly efficient system with our welcome letters. You will get a map designating exactly where you need to go. On the first day of class, we'll be out in force with T-shirts on, holding up signs, directing you to particular areas, and we'll have teachers marshalled with holding signs. We usually do collection points outside because it just seems to be easier than having students wander everywhere, but on occasion we'll send you directly to classrooms. But there will be at every campus representatives from my particular team to be able to show students where to go. More than welcome to bring your parents. That happens, hundreds of parents come every year for the first day, so I'd be very happy to see you guys there as well. But yeah, definitely understand that. Toby asks, is it possible to transfer enrolment into a different course, or is it too late? It is getting very late. We are at capacity for many courses. We've added 20% capacity this year to cope with what we saw the demand is, and we were fairly accurate there because most of our courses are at the brim. However, you can send a request through your school, and they can email VETDSS, VETDSS @boxhill.edu.au. What we will probably do is we will go out to schools in the third week of January, because obviously we've got all the enrolments sorted this side of this year, which is great. But during Christmas, people move schools, people change. They've spoken to their career practitioner and said, oh, I don't think it's the course for me. So availabilities do become available, and then if we do have your details, then there is a chance that we might be able to swap you over. So again, speak to your career practitioner. That's probably the best way to do it as efficiently as possible. Sapphire writes, is there scope to change from evening to day course, as my son is year 10? If this is not possible, is he expected to go to school on Wednesday, then Box Hill in the same evening? Yes, unfortunately, again, due to capacity constraints, we've only got a certain number of teachers, and to be able to offer the Wednesday availability, we run the teachers from morning to night. It's a very big day for them. So if you are in an evening class on a Wednesday, the expectation is you will do school up until 3:30, and then you'll travel to Box Hill to do the night class. I understand as a year 10, that's a big undertaking, but it's just a fact that we are at capacity in many trades courses, and that's the only way we could get extra capacity into the system. Stephanie writes, I have autism and intellectual disability. Will I have access to aid to assist me in the studies? Most certainly you will. During the application process, there was a drop-down menu for your school to select a range of various learning difficulties or medical conditions. What that does for us is it prompts us to go back out to the school and solicit information. Obviously, there's confidentiality and privacy, but we have actually got all of those documents with us already. What we then do with those is we don't show them to anyone, but we pass them on to what we call our Disability Liaison service, and they're a specialist service that is there to assist our teachers to make the adjustments that you require to make sure that you have a very positive learning experience and that we cater to your individual needs. So what will generally happen is we'll have your name, we'll have your details. At the start of next year, we'll go back out to the school and say, you know, we would like these people to sign up with DLS. It's a free service. They're there to support you. And if you do sign up with them, they will positively advocate on your behalf with your particular teacher. So I really do suggest everyone avails themselves of that service. Lisa, you've written, with my daughter going into year 11 next year, is this course just for year 11 or does it go across year 12? Nearly all of our courses, except 2, go across 2 years. So there's active volunteering, which is a 1-year course, and there's an animal studies fast track, which is a very difficult course because it's 2 years condensed into one, and you get a unit 1 to unit 4 sequence for your VCE in it. They are 2 quite small courses, but all the rest of them are a 2-year undertaking. And so just be aware that you need to achieve 180 hours of study in year 1 and 180 hours of study in year 2. Jennifer writes, my daughter is Catholic school, so any concessions we have need to be discussed with the school. That's correct. Martin writes, regarding attendance, an overseas trip in June is on the calendar and we wonder how that will affect. She'll be away for 3 to 4 weeks. Yeah, look, Martin, that does make it tricky. But I think if we know about it at the start of the year and we can work around it and maybe add some extra work onto your daughter's calendar, that might be the way, and we can just see what we can do there. But that is a large chunk to miss, and we generally see from experience that if you have missed 4 weeks, you really struggle to get those competence for every unit and every assignment. So it's something that we would want to actively manage with you and also your daughter's school. Next question. I'm currently going into second year equine studies. There were rumours that one campus wouldn't offer second year equine studies next year. How do I know which campus I will be at? That will be in the welcome letter. With the only problem that we had is we were oversubscribed for the second year in the city campus, and we've tried to go out to schools where postcodes allow and say, would it be possible to move to our Alga campus? That is affecting a very small minority of students. You know, I could count them on less than one hand. So please, when the welcome letter comes out, just have a chat with your career practitioner. We obviously always want to give you access to the campus where you took year 1. Sometimes it's not feasible, but that's very rare. Lula writes, can we please have that email again for the early tour? Certainly. Maybe Morgan, you could throw it in the chat. Simply it's schools@boxhill.edu.au. But as I said, we're down to 1 staff and that 1 staff member has COVID. So we're just going to have to be careful of the capacity, but we can certainly direct you to on campus. We can certainly direct you to where your classroom is. We can send you a map out early if need be. and you could have some fun navigating your way around. When I first started at Box Hill, it does seem like a big environment. It's usually much bigger and a little bit more windy and complicated than a school environment. So if you do want to come on, it does make sense to me. Jed asks, what do you wear next year? That will be in your welcome letter. So if you're undertaking trades, for instance, there'll be some protective equipment that you'll be required to buy, such as some steel-capped boots. But there is also high-vis gear that you might have to wear. There will be a list of most materials will be funded, but there are some protective equipments that sometimes we do as class sets. Sometimes a lot of people want to buy them for themselves. So you'll be able to see that clearly in your welcome letters when they come out. Once again, because I'm decimated by COVID at the moment, we were hoping to get the welcome letters out next week, which is the 12th. We might be later in that week, fingers crossed, or the week after. But as I said, we will be sending you out another larger version in the new year, probably third, fourth week of January, just so you've got it fresh. You can have it on your phone. You know what you need to do, and you have that map as well for when you come for your first day. Alison, my daughter has autism. Can I know about the equine studies? Where do we go? I think the first port of call would be the VETDSS guide, that the link's placed there. Just have a look at that. There is obviously, you need to be able to safely make your way around a horse. A horse can be an unknown quantity, large, powerful. It can rear up. You know, there are things that you need to consider. You could obviously have a chat with your school about that. If you have selected any medical disability in your application, or the school has on your behalf, we will actively go back to the school if we think that application's not appropriate. However, that guide should give you a little bit more understanding of what's required of the student, and then you can make an informed call as to whether your daughter will be able to perform all the tasks and be able to successfully complete that course. What do you wear for building and construction? It's basically a high-vis t-shirt. It can be long pants and work boots. You'll be issued class set protective goggles. So you generally change out of your uniform at school and come ready for class in that. Olivia writes, could I please have a link for further info on equine studies? Yes, that will be in the VETDSS guide. So just follow that link. It'll have all our courses in there, and it will have equine studies as one of the first few. Harry, is there anywhere to get food during the day? Oh, good question, Harry. You're right on the money. Yes, we have canteens at all of our campuses, multiple cafes as well. The city, you have a smorgasbord of cafes nearby. Alga on level 1, there's a very large cafe that most of the students go to. Same at Nelson, same at Lilydale. So you can buy your lunch from us. You can buy drinks. We did shut down water fountains due to COVID. So if you do bring a bottle of water or buy it from us, that would be great as well. Where do I find the building and construction video? So if you go into the YouTube channel, there'll be a whole host of video icons that are from Box Hill. You're looking for one that says VETDSS. Click on that, and then once you go through there, on the right-hand side, there'll be VETDSS Engineering, VETDSS Equine, VETDSS Animal Studies, and you just have to select the one that says Building and Construction. Can my support worker attend my class? Yes, if they're an official support worker, we do actively encourage that. And if your child, or if you're the student asking the question, if you rely on that at school, we expect that same level of support to come to Box Hill as well, because just like school, this is like any other subject, and we certainly welcome that. Where can we find all the info regarding transport to the campus and where to go? Our maps will have the intersecting roads, but it will be your responsibility to find out what public transport routes there are. You could simply go into the PTV or any bus company, type in where the campus location is, and they'll map out a route for you from where you are to where you want to go. And you'll no doubt have other school friends and other schools coming on those tram, train and bus lines as well. So it usually is, we're fairly well located for public transport. On the VETDSS guide for building construction, it has class day times as follows. Does this mean the student can choose when they attend? No, the fixed allocation comes from the application for your school. So when they made the application on your behalf, there was a drop-down menu for building and construction. There would have been a first preference, second and third preference that the school could enter. A lot of them just enter a first preference and hopefully they get it. Multiple entered second and third preferences. Obviously, everyone wants the coveted Wednesday afternoon position, but we just don't have the capacity for everyone there. So there isn't flexibility in that sense. It's your welcome letter will allocate what your school chose. We had a very good run rate of giving first preferences. In fact, the overwhelming majority got their first preference, and it was unfortunately the few that got their second preference, which may be a Wednesday morning, maybe a Friday, and then we added Tuesday and Thursday classes just to add extra capacity. But probably one of those won't run, just the numbers didn't materialize. Tegan writes, if there are 2 campuses for a course, how do we know which campus we're at? Again, that will come in your welcome letter. Your school selected the campus on your behalf. So obviously they're going to choose one either in consultation with you or because it just makes sense. If you're Coonung just down the road from our Alga campus, you're all going to come to us. If you're Lilydale High School, all you have to do is walk up the road to Lilydale. So most of your career practitioners will have either thought through and made the selection on your behalf, or if there was a conversation between you and them, they will often choose the one that you've selected. We're happy for you to come to whichever campus you choose, but it does have to be as part of your application when the schools enter it. Sophie writes, when does the year end? My son's school does an overseas trip at end of November. Yeah, we tend to finish, the second years tend to finish late October. Our first years might run a little bit over into November, but the aim is not too deeply into November. It's only in the COVID years that we've run a little bit late, but we have to get the results into VAS by, I think it was November the 7th this year. So there's real pressure on us to complete the course before then, do all the marking, then provide it to all the schools. So I think you'd be safe if it's at the end of November. Vicky writes, do you have the same holidays as Vic government secondary schools? Exactly right. We mirror the government timetable exactly. Christine writes, how many subjects are there to pass? So in your certificate, there'll be different numbers of units. Building construction might have 9 in first year, and they've all got different hour allotments. So that 9, if you add up the delivery hours, that will equal over 180 hours, which is what gives you your VCE VM pass. And it also qualifies you for your VCE unit 1 to 4 structure as well. 90 hours is basically 1 unit. So unit 1 and unit 2 is 180 hours, unit 3 and unit 4 is 180 hours. So each certificate can assemble the 180 hours in any way based on the subjects. The Victorian Curriculum and Assessment Authority, which governs all of VCE, they'll dictate the core subjects that must be completed, and they'll also suggest the elective subjects. We then package them up and we make sure that there's 180 hours of them, but that might mean in some courses you're doing 5 units with us. In other courses, you might be doing 9. They all array slightly differently. Hannah writes, my daughter may be going on a school trip for 2 weeks during July, August. Will that cause many problems? Again, the sooner we find out about that and the teacher knows it specifically, the better off we'll be. So if she could mention it either to her school or to the teacher at the start, we can just make sure that we arrange the training. And once you give us that forewarning, there's more flexibility. It's much harder if they miss the actual activities in class and then try to make them up afterwards. But forewarned is forearmed in this case. Is there a YouTube video for animal studies? Yes, there should certainly be one. So again, just jump on the link, find the first icon that says VETDSS, so VETDSS. Ignore the other ones that might be about diplomas and bachelors and what have you. Click on the VETDSS one, and then a list will come up at the side, and that one of them will be animal studies. Sapphire writes, do they need the building construction ensemble on day 1? Look, you could probably get away with it on day one because we are heavily into orientation. So day one really is about just getting a familiarity with the campus, knowing where the canteen is, knowing where the toilets are, having a look at the workshop. So if you didn't have everything together day one, there's no crime in that. Week two, definitely we want you to have it because then the fun starts. Steve writes, does the welcome letter come as an email or physical letter from Box Hill? It will be an electronic email, so it'll be sent via MailChimp, and it will have it'll be addressed to you, but it won't be a physical letter. Elizabeth writes, if my daughter wants to obtain a part-time job in the area she's studying, will she receive a letter from Box Hill or her school as reference? Most definitely. We're here to find pathways to employment. That's why we exist as a TAFE. So we're very, very happy to support them. We'll obviously give students access to the Skills and Jobs Centre to build resumes and confidence in application and interviews. So very, very happy to support students. Olivia writes, who will receive the welcome letter? Will it be to parents or us? We're going to be very careful and we're going to send it to both of you because we know that some email addresses sometimes don't get opened by students for a long period of time. So we do try to ensure that your parents receive the same communication. There has been an issue with Gmail accounts recently. Box Hill has struggled to be able to send it through. So we've resolved that, but it will all be coming out. If you've got a private Gmail account, you'll be receiving our communications. If you've got a school email, you'll be receiving our communications. The only tricky one is if your parent has a business account on Gmail. We're having a little bit of trouble with that at the moment, but we're hoping to resolve it. We will also send a copy of all these welcome letters to the school, and so you will be able to speak to your career practitioner and access your particular course so that you know what you're doing. Toby writes, can you please provide a full URL for the VETDSS guide as we can't copy it from the presentation slide? I'm pretty sure Morgan's thrown that in the chat. If you scroll up, you should just be able to click through on it. Bella, there was an issue with the Gmail address with the invite for this session. I didn't get this through. Yeah, so we have what apparently has happened is someone has copied a lot of email addresses into a Box Hill email and sent a bulk email. Gmail has looked at it and said that's spam, and they've banned us from sending to Gmail accounts. We've resolved it with personal Gmail accounts. It's now just if you have a business account, and we'll resolve that shortly as well. Micaiah writes, next year I'm doing 1 to 2 outdoor education and we'll be going on some camps throughout the year. How will that work with my attendance? Again, forewarned is forearmed. Please just let your teachers know at the start of the year. We do understand that we have to fit around your school timetable. We do lose a delivery week in the year because the GAT exam is normally undertaken on a Wednesday morning and it runs into the afternoon, which makes it too late for you to arrive for your classes. So we are more compressed than schools, and we miss out often when a school has a sports day, or as I mentioned, the GAT, we do miss on those delivery windows. So it really is important that you tell the teachers and we can start working towards a strategy to get around that. How do you make up hours if you miss a day? It's not so much making up the hours, it's you'll all be on what we call student web. All of your course material will be on there. You'll have to make sure that if you've missed that you come up to speed with the content that's on there, that you've read it, that if there are any assessments or quizzes online, that you've undertaken them. And so that way you'll be well prepared. You can also write to your teachers in advance and say, you know, I'm going to miss this class. What do you suggest I do? And they'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction. Sorry, but I didn't catch that. What do we wear? That will be in your welcome letter, Diana. So you don't need to stress about that. In animal studies, we give you Box Hill t-shirts. Same with other courses. In trades, we need some protective equipment, but it's all spelt out in the welcome letter. And then it's just a matter, as I said before, if you're not fully equipped and decked out on the first week, there's no stress at all. So most people just come in their school uniform and then you have a chat with your teachers and you get everything sorted. Sapphire, I've clicked on the link and I get a range of videos, but no VETDSS. Is it under the playlist menu? I am looking for building and construction. I might ask Morgan if you're online just to try to find that particular video and grab the building and construction link and post that here. And that way we'll get you directly into it. Emily writes, what clothes will be required to wear for animal studies? Yeah, school uniform is generally fine. They will then provide a t-shirt for you to come to school in, and they'll also, if you're doing anything like pet grooming or handling animals, yes, there'll be class sets of lab coats and the like, or whatever the protective equipment is. There we go. I think Morgan's already posted that building construction link, so that's there to click through. And Sapphire found it anyway. Okay, great. Alison writes, would they have helpers for my daughter's mental health problems? Yes, again, we have a group of people, of counsellors and trained psychologists, one of which is a doctor, through what we call Student Life, and they are available to have consultations with students. We really do want to be an inclusive environment. We are trying exceedingly hard to be able to adapt our teaching and what we're trying to achieve from an education perspective to all the various needs. We know that there are a lot of underlying issues in the community and that psychosocial development lags because of the COVID years as well. So we are available to provide support. There's also the disability liaison service as well. And PD for us, so for our teachers that teach VETDSS, our teachers in VCE and our teachers in VCAL, we're doing an enormous amount of professional development on a whole range of things related to topics of mental health, learning difficulties and the like, to be able to identify students that may be struggling and that may need our proactive support. So it's something that we want to become renowned for, and we were voted as the inclusive trainer of the year a few years ago, so we definitely want to continue that. Chloe writes, what stationery do we need for equine studies, and do we have our locker to store our things? That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure about a locker. I'd have to find out about that. With regards to stationery, everything's done online more these days, so that student web access where your course material sits there. So a lot of the time you'll be on the computer if you're not doing your practical assessment, but that again will be in the welcome letter if there's a deviation from that. Kelsey writes, if you're doing animal care fast tracks next year, does that mean classes are every Wednesday or every second Wednesday? Most definitely every Wednesday. It is a difficult course because you're having 2 years of study. It's like doing year 11 animal studies and year 12 animal studies in 1 year. It's not for the faint-hearted. It progresses at a rapid rate, and there's an extended delivery window on every Wednesday. So that's a vitally important one that you attend each week because it moves at a fast pace to be able to give you that full completion. Ben writes, he's having surgery. He'll be on crutches. I'm doing the Cert 2 mechanics course. Yeah, definitely still attend while you're on crutches. We'll make adjustments for you. Look, you will start the year with theory before you start getting your hands dirty. So hopefully you're timing that quite well. But yeah, we do realise you'll be limited, and that's fine. We'll adjust to you. Melissa writes, we can only find a YouTube video for equine, which was posted in October 21 for 22. Is there an updated one for 2023? We haven't asked our teachers to update them because they were fairly general and still met all of the guidelines this year. The ultimate source of truth is the VETDSS guide. That's the most current and was released for this year. The video is to just give you a feel for the teacher and the content. The VETDSS guide is to give you the full exact breakdown of everything that's required, whether you've got structured workplace learning, whether it's a scored subject, all those sorts of things. So have a look at the video and then supplement that with the VETDSS guide. Isabel writes, do you have an updated animal studies video? Oh, same question, same answer. If you drop out of high school, does it affect the course or can you still continue? That's a really good question. No, you can't continue because these are senior secondary options that integrate with your VCE, VM or VCE. You can certainly come to TAFE and continue your course, but you won't be subsidised by the government in the way that you'd be subsidised while still at school. You may have to pay, depending on the course, it might fall under free TAFE, in which case you're laughing, or it might have a fee attached to it. So you just have to be careful. The aim for all senior secondary students is to finish their VCE or the VCE VM. We really do see statistics that say it's vitally important to stay at school and that it has such an enormous effect on your earning capacity and also how happy you are with your life. There are longitudinal studies that show us that not only will you earn significantly more over your lifetime, but you'll be happier in the process if you complete your senior secondary. We know that senior secondary isn't for everyone, and that's why we offer VCE and VCAL as well. It's an adult learning environment. It's very different to school. So before you thought about not completing a senior secondary certificate, I would very much support you in looking at all the various options because there are very different ways of getting these things. Linda Young, hi, is there a playlist of Intos for videos 2023 or the ones from 2022? Just use the 2022 ones for now, and as I said, supplement the VETDSS guide. It's very hard at this time of year with resulting and we had re-registration this year to ask teachers to redo a presentation that's basically exactly the same as what they did last year. So I've used the 2022 ones knowing that all the updates are also in the VETDSS guide as well. Do the classes fall into line with the school terms? Yes, they most certainly do. The government school terms. Will this recording be available at the end of the session as my internet has been dropping out? Yes, Morgan's recorded it on our behalf and we're happy to send that out to you. Again, we can send that, we can post that on the YouTube channel that you already have access to. So I would say within a day, check back in and you'll have my face to look at once again. Unfortunate for you. Leah writes, am I correct thinking that Certificate 2 in Animal Care will allow me to enrol in Veterinary Nursing Certificate 4 after completing? That's a really good question and something that I'd like you to check in the VETDSS guide. It's been a little while since I looked that up, so I don't want to answer with any certainty and give you the wrong answer. But yes, the progression is there. Whether you have to do a Cert 3 in between and then go into the Cert 4, I'm not exactly sure, but you are at the start of the pathway. Whether you can make the jump straight into the Cert 4 or have to do the Cert 3 beforehand, that's the only question that I would check. If it's not in the guide, you can always contact schools@boxhill.edu.au and we'll send an email on your behalf to the coordinator and manager of the area and just confirm it for you. Stephanie, will my support worker be allowed to be in class? Yes, definitely. As long as they are a legitimate support worker. We have some people trying to turn up with their brother or their mother or a family friend, and that's not appropriate. Obviously, there are checks and balances. We would need the support worker to be reviewed by Student Life and the Disability Liaison Service, and the things that we're looking, working with kids checks, police checks, and an understanding of what the requirements are. So we just have to make sure we've ticked all the boxes there. What medical requirements are necessary for animal studies and why, please? I think there would be a tetanus shot for animal studies from memory. Again, that will be in the VETDSS guide. That's the only thing I can think of at the moment, just to protect you, just in case you get scratched or bitten or knocked. Yeah. Sophie writes, what would we be wearing for the automotive course? You'll just be wearing some high-vis protective equipment, just a t-shirt, some pants, strong boots. You might be wearing eyewear as well, but that will all be in the welcome letter. Joel Dixon writes, do we have to choose subjects units for the animal studies or are they locked? No, they're all locked. So you're locked in now. You don't have to do any more choosing at all. Shana writes, is animal studies, would we have to do a lot of writing example, making up words as I have a disability that restricts me? Again, the Disability Liaison Service is a great service. They're there to look at what you're struggling with and then to make adjustments with you and your teacher. There is obviously writing answers to questions and the like, but what the DLS will do on your behalf is they will actually review the content with your teacher, and they'll say, these are the adjustments we would like you to make this student's life easier and to make sure we get a positive outcome. So please just make sure you sign up for that service, and we can take care of it from there. Toby writes, what if you're enrolled in a course that goes over 2 years, but you finish high school at end of 2023? Yeah, so that's a really interesting one. So let's take animal studies as an example. You would only be using that for 1 year, and all you have to do is make sure that you get the 180 hours so it becomes part of your certificate. I doubt whether, having only completed the 1 year, you will be able to get the 10%. So that's something that you have to consider. There is the fast track option, but I think it's probably too late to enroll in that now. And that's why we have that flexibility, because you can do 2 years in one if you need to. But again, I would very much encourage you to speak to your career practitioner at school. And if you've got any questions like that and you're unsure of how the subject's going to be used and how it applies to that particular situation, please have that chat with them. How do I go around teachers using a preferred name? Just let them know what your preferred name is and they'll use it. I presume that's the nature of the question. Again, we've had a lot of PD in this area. We've had students from all walks of life. We had a student that ran the PD about pronouns and preferred names, which was a really great session for our teachers and gave a perspective from the students' mindset and generation. And so we're all very, we're encouraged and looking forward to be able to accept all the various individualities that we encounter. Vicky writes, sorry, is there a link for YouTube? I can't find it. And Morgan's posted. She's on the money. Corey, will my course work out a work placement, or is that something the school will do? I've heard that this is what happens on the Thursday, but could be incorrect. So each course has the option for what we call structured workplace learning, but there are only 2 courses where it's mandatory, and they are allied health and early childhood, and none of you would be attending tonight if you were doing those courses. The other courses, the ones you're interested in, they will strongly recommend it, but it is between you and your school to arrange it. Box Hill may give you indications of employers and where you could go. We'll certainly introduce you to the Skills and Job Centre for your resume and your application and interview skills, but it is the remit of the school to be able to organise that on your behalf. Ben writes, is there a specific time for a lunch break? None of our courses go across lunch. So we have a morning session that will run up to about 12:30, and then you can have lunch afterwards, or you can have lunch before, and most of our classes start 1:30 and then run into the evening. So usually what happens is if you leave school by about 12 o'clock, you'll be able to make your way to Box Hill without any stress. You'll be able to have lunch in the canteen or bring your pre-packaged lunch and then go to class afterwards. Nicholas writes, my son will be completing Unit 1 and 2 of Equine Studies whilst in Year 12. Can he complete Unit 3 and 4 the following year, even though he is finished in school? Yeah, so he will go in, he will become a mature age student at that stage. Equine won't be available to him because it's a Certificate 2 level, and I don't believe it's offered as a standalone post-secondary. But there are other courses that he would be able to enroll in, animal care, vet nursing, all those sorts of courses. So again, if you are interested in a pathway, we could map one out for you on your behalf. So again, you could send an email to schools@boxhill.edu.au. Scarlett writes, if there is a medical reason why a student couldn't have a tetanus shot, is it still possible to attend Equine Studies? Yeah, please let us know about that. Again, send it to, there's another email address that I'll type into the chat now for you, because we'll have to go to the faculty and ask these questions on your behalf. And it's med, so med for medical, VETDSS@boxhill.edu.au. you can just send, if you could send your name, the course that you've enrolled in, your home school, and we'll have your email address, but maybe a mobile number, and just detail that you're unable to take the tetanus shot, we can get an answer for you. So I've just thrown that into the chat now. A few thank yous. What does 180 hours mean? So in every year, the certificate we've selected a bunch of units to provide to you, and they equal up in delivery hours more than 180 hours worth of content. Now, it doesn't mean that you're with us for 180 hours. It means that the way that we deliver allows us to, with confidence say, we've given you the benefit of 180 hours of training. That includes things like after-hour work, homework, activities, excursions, and the like as well. So it all adds up to 180 hours. We've taken care of that for you. So as long as you do all of the units that are given to you, you will, and successfully pass them, you will achieve that 180-hour threshold, and then you'll be able to be awarded your certificate. When would you be able to have the tetanus shot by? Well, obviously by the time you start class would be the idea there. Sally, is there a recording of this session as we missed the first half? Yes, Sally, we are recording this, and Morgan will post it on the YouTube channel. Actually, Morgan, she's so quick. She's already answered that. And the last but not least from Vicky, hi, for animal studies, will we have a chance to be contact with animals? Yes, certainly. That's the whole aim of the course. So there's it's one of the few courses where you're allowed to bring animals into the classroom, and so some of our teachers will have dogs, they'll have cats. We have pet grooming, pet spas, we have a vet on staff, and so there are animals moving through that faculty all the time. We have lizard enclosure, snake enclosure, a whole range of different things for you to get your hands dirty. So I think that probably is the end of it. Thank you very much for all of those who stayed. I wish you a very Merry Christmas. Be safe over the new year, and we really look forward to seeing you next year. I will stick around if you've got more questions. No problem, Sienna. I've seen your hand. We'll let everyone jump out though, and then we'll just finish up with a few questions. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. Alexia, if the course is not what the student thought it would be, how do we go about leaving? That's a really good question, Alexia. So we have what's called a cutoff date, and that is 1 month from the day of your first class. Now, if you get in and after 2-3 weeks go, oh, you know what, this isn't for me, I need to swap into something at school, you're more than welcome to do so. Your school will not be charged for any fee. It's just a grace period, because we know that some people, sometimes you just don't gel with what you've chosen, and that's perfectly all right. So we give you that 1 month of grace. However, after that, if you go 1 week after that 1 month period, so you're doing classes in March, your school will be charged for the whole year. So please be aware. That's a really great question.